Hi, I'm Trisha at Club Scrap. Welcome to the Abundance Card Kit Workshop. This time we're going to make those 12 cards, but we're also going to make a really beautiful 5x7 gift box for your larger size cards. Let's get started. You can see here I have my kit ready to go. I'm going to set all of the envelopes and ribbon and goodies aside. So I just have my paper here. And I also have a printed copy of my instructions. I know a lot of you just like to work right from your tablet or your computer. That's great, that'll work fine. I have my accordion pocket file. This is gonna help us stay organized. We'll be using pockets A, B, and C for our card sets, and I believe we're gonna use D for everything required for the box and the lid. So I'm gonna take the lip of this and put it under my trimmer base here so it stays vertical with the help of the trimmer. Speaking of, I'm using my favorite guillotine style trimmer here too by Fiskars. I do carry these at Club Scrap. If you really wanna level up your game and don't have this yet, you won't regret it. Now, with the paper, what I like to do is start by sorting it in the order we're going to trim it. Saves a lot of time on the back end. So while I hold the paper up here, I'm going to find one sheet of the orange from the kit, and then next up, one sheet of that navy blue. And I'm gonna put the texture side facing down, so when we flip the paper back to the top, we'll be good to go. And then one ivory, followed by a light brown. Then I'm gonna grab another blue, again, texture side down. I'll take a light brown, an ivory, a dark brown. The dark brown also has texture. I would call it a felt finish, and I'll put it the most pronounced side facing down. And if you can't really tell, don't worry about it. I do sense that one side is a little bit more smooth than the other. Next up, grab another orange. The orange paper is really heavy, so it'll feel like you have two when you only have one. Your last sheet of the dark brown. Your two prints. Those are the all over print with the leaves on, so pretty. Next up, we have the cut apart sheet that has the most solid colored blocks on it. And then the one that's a little bit brighter, that'll be last, we'll put that face down. That's everything, right? So flip it all back over to the orange where we started, and that's where we're gonna make our first cuts. And I'm just gonna turn to step 1 of our instructions. Now we're gonna be trimming 4 pieces the same exact way. We'll work 2 at a time. If you're not comfortable with working 2 at a time, no worries. That's the magic of YouTube playback. You can just rewind and watch it again as many times as needed. You can even adjust your playback speed to slow me down a little bit if you'd feel more comfortable. Just hit that gear setting on the lower right corner of your screen. You'll have the option for playback speed. Choose 0.75. That'll really slow it down so you can handle it. But as you become more proficient with my method, you'll be able to keep up with me just fine. Okay, so before we can trim this, before we even put it in the trimmer, we need to figure out which direction the grain of this paper is going so that we can cooperate it later when we fold the paper into a card base. So I like to hold the paper by an edge, like the center of an edge, and give it a little wiggle. And then I'll rotate it and do the same thing. I can see right away that this paper is a lot more flexible when I hold it by this edge, okay? So then I'm gonna make sure that the flexibility direction of the sheet goes down into the trimmer from the top to the bottom. It won't always be that way, but in this case it will. So I need to repeat that now for the blue. This is stiff, this is, very flexible. It's flexing easily top to bottom. Stack those papers neatly together. Unlock and lift your trimmer blade all the way up. And let's go ahead and find 11 1/4. So I'll find 11, and then I'm gonna go to the left 1 column on my trimmer base because every one of these columns is 1/4 of an inch. Make sure every time you cut that your paper is level here at the top. Push down on the clear bar before you slice to keep those papers from moving around. Now the paper that landed down here, don't be tempted to move it anywhere. Just leave it right where it landed. And then when I give you directions, it'll be much easier. We'll all be on the same page instead of trying to figure out what paper I'm talking about. Okay, then slide down to 7. Stabilize. And then rotate that 7 by 12 so it's horizontal. Trim at 8. That's going to give me a pair of card bases. I'm going to set my card bases aside on my table in a different spot so that I can go back to them later and score them. Then you have this pair of rectangles that fell from the end. Let's just trim this at 6 inches. This rectangle will go in pocket C, and you have a pair of strips, pocket A. And then we're going to pick up the next long strip, trim this at 11. And these pieces grow up to become card bases again, so I'll set them aside to be scored. And the little strips that fell also go into pocket A. Then you have this long strip. We're actually going to trim it. And because it's so narrow, you know, I really do prefer to have my paper up against here, but sometimes I can't see the measurement anymore. So I'm going to bring it down. And my first cut will be at 10. So just have it level just beneath where the inches are listed. And then 5 3/4. Now, mind you, all of these pieces could easily be scraps, but I just have decided to find a home for them. And since a lot of you want to make the cards exactly as I did, that's why I go to this length of detail to show you how I used even these little strips. So this one is going to go in pocket C, the largest one that was just in your trimmer base. The shorter one that fell, pocket A. And then I'm sorry to tell you, but these are scraps. Let's just set those aside. Okay, we're gonna do all of that one more time. So take the ivory. Love this. It feels like a baby's bottom. And I'm gonna wiggle it, making sure it flexes top to bottom. And then same with this light brown color. This reminds me sort of a camel colored leather. I just think it's so pretty. So let's stack those neatly. Again, we'll trim at 11 1/4. So 11 plus 1 column left. And 7. Rotate and trim at 8. Set aside to become card bases later. Pick up the rectangle and we'll trim at 6. Place the large panel in pocket C and the small strips that fell in pocket A. Then the long strip, trim at 11. Set aside to be scored. These little strips, see, since the theme here, that A again. And now that real narrow strip, we'll bring it right below the inch marking here. And our first number is 10. And 5 3/4. The 5 3/4 strip, pocket C, Charlie. And then the smaller one, A, Apple, or Alpha, whatever. And then you got 2 more little scraps. Our next sheet is blue, and by my diagram here, there's an arrow pointing top to bottom, just like before. So when I check the grain direction, I want to make sure the side that flexes most easily is placed top to bottom, and same for the next one. So we got this light brown going in as well. Stack neatly and cut at 10 1/2. And 6 1/4. Next, rotate this entire piece and trim at 9. You've just made 2 more card bases. We'll set those aside to be scored and pick up that 3-inch piece. We'll trim at 4 1/4. This panel goes in pocket A and the other rectangle, B, bravo. This 4 1/4 by 12 strip will trim at 11 1/2. 5 1/2. And now, without removing this, we're just going to rotate it so it's vertical and trim at 3 3/4. Place this larger panel in pocket B, bravo. And this little strip that fell from the end is a scrap. Set that aside. This next pair of panels, B, bravo, and what you just did by making some of those turns and cuts is made 2 panels that will nest together like that. I love that. Again, that's pocket B. There are 2 small strips that fell from the end. Those are a scrap, and I'll grab the last long bit here. We're gonna trim this at 6 1/4. This is another case too where I rescued this scrap and I incorporated it into a card. So this longer piece, pocket B, bravo, and the shorter one that fell, C, Charlie. we get to do all of that one more time. So dipping easy top to bottom on the ivory, dipping easily top to bottom on this beautiful dark brown, stack them neatly together, and we'll trim at 10.5, 6 1/4, rotate, trim at 9. You've got a card base here to set aside. Pick up the little rectangle, cut at 4 1/4. The larger panel in your trimmer base, pocket A, alpha. The smaller rectangle, B, bravo. Pick up the larger piece here. It's 4 1/4 by 12 right now. We'll cut at 11.5, 5.5, rotate, and trim at 3 3/4. Large panel in the base, pocket B, bravo. You have some narrow strips that are scraps. The next pair of panels also B, bravo, with some smaller scraps. Finally, we have the strip. We'll cut it 6 1/4. Pocket B on the larger piece. Pieces that fell off the end, C, Charlie. We are like so close to being done already. Can you believe it? We're just gonna trim one orange, okay? Only one sheet of this gorgeous paper. And this time I want the grain direction dipping easily from left to right. This will be some panels and also the base of our gift box. Mind you too, that once you learn how to make this gift box, you can make it in any size you want if you kind of understand the mechanics of it. We'll start at 10. There, this is going to be your gift box base. It needs to be scored, so I'll set that aside. And then we have this other little piece here. We'll trim at 7 1/4. Place the 7 1/4 inch piece in pocket D, David. And this little piece that fell from the end is a scrap. Now we're moving on to page 2 of your instructions. We'll trim the dark brown. Once again, I'm gonna have the grain dipping easily from left to right. First cut 9 1/4. Now don't be upset with me. It can't be helped. We have to trim next at 9 1/8. I know. So that's halfway between 9 and 9 1/4. You'll find 9 1/8. So 9 plus 1/2, it's 9 plus halfway to 9 1/4 is 9 1/8. That's all there is to it. Now rotate and cut at 11 1/8. So that's halfway between 11 and 11 1/4. You'll find that mid-sized hash mark. This is the lid for our box. That's why that 1/8 inch cut is necessary. If I didn't do it, the lid wouldn't fit tightly. Do you see how nice this fits on there? That's because of that 1/8 inch size difference, okay? If I didn't do that, it'd be less cool. Setting that aside to be scored, that larger piece, you do have this pair of pieces, this 1/8 inch strip and also the longer strip. Those are scraps. And finally, you have this 2 3/4 by 12. We'll trim this at 9, 6, and 3. And all 4 of these pieces go in pocket C, Charlie. Get some nice easy cuts here to make on our prints. Take just one print and we'll trim at 9 3/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. Gather the 2 most recent pieces, the one from the base, the one that just fell. They should be the same size. We'll trim at 10 and 5. Gather the 4 panels you just made that are the same for pocket A. And then you had 2 rectangles that fell from the end. Those can be set aside in your scrap pile. I know I say no scraps, but it's really minimal when you're considering making 12 cards. And then we'll trim this pair of strips. So the next 2 strips are the same size. Cut at 11 and 5 1/2. And gather those 4 pieces that are the same. Pocket B, bravo, 2 small scraps. Your final just regular print before we move on to the cut aparts, we'll trim this one at 7 1/2 and 3 3/4. Gather the 2 most recently created pieces, they should be the same, and trim at 11 1/2 and 5 3/4. All 4 of these pieces that are the same, pocket C, Charlie. And then you have this larger piece that's left. We'll cut at 6 1/2. And this panel goes in pocket D, David. Believe it or not, this piece is a scrap. You can do with it as you wish. You can put it as a panel on the inside of a card. I don't have a specific assignment for you, so it's totally your call. With our cut aparts next, we need to remove the paper from the outside edges when you use that plus sign as a guide. So the goal is to line up that plus sign with the outside edge of that stainless steel blade on your trimmer base. And when I make my first cut, I can't see the outside edge of the blade on my trimmer base. So I make that cut kind of generous. In other words, I still have a little bit of that hash mark left behind. I'm going to clean that up on the last rotation of my trimming. With that piece gone, now when I line it up here, I can see perfectly top and bottom. And I'll just remove that, make another rotation. Another, and this time I should be able to look at my 12 on the left and see my hash marks aligned on the right, and the same is true for my last rotation. I'm just gonna do something a little different and do the same thing right away with this second piece. Normally I trim that, but I just wanna get rid of these scraps all at once. I'm gonna do them both back to back. So I'm on the second sheet of cut aparts, doing the same exact thing. And this is kind of how I make my, when I'm doing this by myself, like while I'm not filming, I kind of do it that way. Get rid of those edges all at once. I'll get rid of all those scraps then all at once. And I'm going to go back now to this original sheet. This matches up with the image you'll see in step 7. So if you ever get lost, you can always look at the instructions. The trimming numbers and the pocket destinations are all listed right on the diagram. So we'll start out at 11 3/4, 8 1/2. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not mention that you need to have that polka dot on the right edge. Sorry about that. I'm assuming you'll see that you were gonna cut through something critical if you didn't have the paper positioned correctly. Okay, and the next measurement is 8 1/2, 5 3/4, and 4. Rotate so that we're horizontal here, and our first cut will be at 11 1/2, making sure the words "Oh Happy Day" and "Thankful" are on your right. 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. All 4 of these sentiments plus the little strips that fell from the end, it all goes in pocket A. And we'll pick up the next pretty narrow strip here. We'll cut at 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. Those were the same numbers we just did on the other strip. These, though, go in pocket B. I didn't have an official home for this. Maybe we'll just put it in D because we might want to use it on the cover. We'll see. We'll see what we decide. That's why we call it pocket D. Okay, now we want Stay Golden on your right. We'll trim at 10, 7 1/2, 5, 2 1/2. Gather up all of the 4 pieces that are the same size for pocket C, Charlie, the Stay Golden, D, David. Next up, place the words "Our Deepest Condolences" on the right. We'll cut at 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. Okay, then we're going to break tradition, go 5 1/4, 3 1/2, 1 3/4. So I'm gonna gather up, we have a bunch of stuff that fell, right? Okay, there are 4 of these, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those should be on the top of your pile. Those all go in pocket B, Bravo. Now, here's the cool thing. I was talking to Beth in the warehouse. She fulfills and packs and ships a lot of your orders. If you order from us frequently, you might know Beth. She said, you know, Trisha, sometimes I don't really like this saying that you have on the inside of the card. It would be really nice if you could just make some like regular things and things that can use as an alternative. That's what we did here. So you've got thinking of you, a couple happy birthdays, a belated, and a condolences that you can just sub out with any of the existing innies or even outside of the card, whatever you want. These are just a gift for you. Okay, I'm going to set those way aside because I don't have a specific assignment for them. That's only if you want to replace them and sub it out. Then this long strip, ooh, I'm going to trim this. That's 6 1/4. Now I have to do that same trick where I go beneath the inch marks so I can see. And we'll put the larger one in B and the smaller one in C, Charlie. Okay, just a few easy cuts left to go and we are done with our trimmer. So grateful for the little things should be on the right, and we'll go 9 1/4, 6 1/2, rotate, and you're gonna love this one. Just go 9, 6, and 3. So 9, 6, 3. Gather those larger pieces that came from that whole strip. Pocket C, Charlie. Next, and extra grateful for you should be on the right. We'll go 9 3/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. The two that say the smallest feet, these are going to be for a pet sympathy card, dog, cat, whatever. I think it's nice to have these on hand. Both go in B. The two smaller ones with the color blocks, A, apple. Then pick up the next one. It should say happy birthday on your right, and it's basically the same. 9 3/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. Again, the two larger ones, B, Bravo. The two smaller ones, A, Alpha. That was the last of our trimming. I'm going to lock my trimmer blade, support my accordion pocket file so it doesn't fall, and then remove my trimmer. From now on, I want that accordion pocket file on its back so that you don't risk it dropping on the floor with all the pieces flowing out of there, and then we have a real mess on our hands. Let's grab our score pals. If you don't have a score pal, highly recommend this for folds that don't land in the middle of cards. We do a pretty good job of designing our cards so that they always fold with the grain, and if we have to go against the grain, the scoring helps them too for any reason. Like for example, with the box, we need to fold in every direction, so some of our folds will be against the grain. That's where it's really nice to have a score pal. Let's take this dark brown sheet of paper, place it in I'm going to put it in vertically into my score pal, and I need to score at 7/8 and 1 3/4. Sounds like fun. Okay, so 7/8 is halfway between the 3/4 and the 1. Even if you count every hash mark, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's where you score on the 7th one. That's 7/8. Okay, then I said we needed to score at 1 3/4, and that's marked. Here's 1, there's 3/4. All right, now rotate and repeat that. 7/8, 1 3/4. This is very heavyweight paper, so make sure you're pushing firmly enough. You might want to make a couple of passes. 7/8, again on this edge, 1 3/4. Rotate again, 7/8, 1 3/4. Good job. Put that in pocket D, David. Now on this orange piece, we need to score it similarly, but our numbers are different. We'll score at 1 1/8, 1 1/8. So that's 1 plus 1 hash mark, 1 channel over from the 1 to the right. The other number was 2 1/4, so 2 1/4. Rotate the paper and repeat 1 1/8, 2 1/4. Rotate. Very heavy paper, more pressure is needed. 1 1/8, 2 1/4. If you're not putting enough pressure, you can make a second pass. That's absolutely fine. 1 1/8, 2 1/4. This piece also will go in pocket D, so when we get to the box, you'll make it then. Now on our pile that I had set aside, next up I've got two pieces. They're dark brown and ivory, and they're 9 inches wide. I'm gonna score this in half at 4.5. And then on the ivory, make sure it says 9 here, score at 4.5. I have two more. I have the light brown, 4.5, and I have the blue. Now on the blue, here we have this texture, this linen on one side. That's the side I want facing up when I'm scoring. So 4.5 on this one. All of it goes in pocket B. Bravo. See, I say bravo to you all the time. The whole time we're prepping. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Okay, now we have these long, narrow pieces that are 11 inches long. We need to score in half at 5.5. And I have an ivory for 5.5. Reach down into your stack a little ways to find the other two that are the same size. So it should be 11 across, 5.5 down. Now we're doing crossword puzzles. 5.5. Gather those up and place in pocket A, apple. Finally, we have these, this is a really weird size, but we're gonna make a card with a short flap. So when you place this in your score pal, it should be 8 here and 7 here. Be mindful, this is not a square. And also the grain direction is gonna be cooperating with our channel of our score lines too. So this time we're gonna score with the 8 inches up here, we're scoring at 5. Make sure again, the 8, score at 5. Score at 5, texture side up on that blue, and once again at 5. And that's our final score line. And these are gonna go in pocket C, Charlie, and you can get rid of your score pal. On page 3, I start out with the box, but we're just gonna go ahead and do the cards for set A to get started. So I'll empty the A pocket and make sure you get all the things out of there. This is your first time making cards with me, you'll begin to see a real rhythmic pattern to how we approach all of our stuff. That always starts out with our card classes. We start with sorting the things we've placed into the envelope by size. Tends to just make life a little easier, and it only takes a moment. And that way we can be nice and organized. And can you imagine if we hadn't been filing all of these pieces into the appropriate pocket, what a mess we'd have on our hands. So you have 3 different sizes of strips. Make sure those are sorted properly. Yes, that looks good. And then we have these little strips with the words on them. I'm gonna take scissors and just cut them, separate them out. No big formality there, just separate them. We're gonna deal with those a little more later. And we will begin by folding our card bases in half. Now, your card base has a score line on it, and here's an indentation, and this is a bump, right? You can feel it with your eyes closed. The raised bump is what goes on the inside of the card fold. And I'm gonna grab my bone folder here too. So once I line up my corners and make my crease, I can go over that with the edge of a bone folder. That's called burnishing. We'll burnish the crease. And the same here. Find your bump, put it on the inside of the fold. I do find when I teach card classes, a lot of experienced card makers don't know where the bump goes. It goes on the inside of the fold. If you check cards at a stationery store like Hallmark, you will see that that's how Hallmark does it. So be like Hallmark and fold on the correct side of the score line. So let's distribute those folded card bases. Now I'm going to start it with the light brown card base here, and then put the blue one next, the ivory, and then the orange. So there we have our 4 card bases. Next, I'll grab our printed panels and distribute 1 to each card base. So this is what I call the deal. We want to use the dark brown colored panel on this one, and then light brown here. We'll go blue here and ivory on the orange card base. Grab your sentiments. We'll do the blue sentiment, may today be filled. Then the orange one, so grateful for the little things. Then the dark brown, may today be filled. And the light brown, so grateful for the little things. Next up, you have a series of strips. Now I'm gonna grab the strips that are the tallest, but not the widest. You've got 3 sets. Let's see, this is not the tallest one. This is the one, and you can test it. You want the strip that's the same height as the card base, okay? Let's begin by putting the ivory one on the light brown card, the orange one next, the tan or light brown, and then navy on this one. You have some skinnier strips that are the same height as the ones you just placed. So let's distribute those. We'll try navy here, or blue here, ivory, orange, and light brown. To help us complete the front of the card, I'm going to distribute one of these tags to each one. And then we used this tiny text. So we'll go, oh, happy day, thankful. Oh, happy day, thankful. The inside of each card will have one of these strips. And earlier I mentioned that this could have easily been a scrap, but I like the way it adds a little color, a little anchoring to the inside of the card. So we're just going to go ahead and use it. I'll go blue. Blue here, ivory here, orange here, and tan here. The same color that was on the top strip. Lastly, we have our inner sentiment. Happy birthday. I used the brown one. And then we'll do an extra grateful for you. We've got our birthday blue, and then an orange and extra grateful for you on this one. Every single one of these cards assembles in the exact same way. So I'm not going to do all four with you on this video. We're just going to do one together. So to remedy the plan here, I'm going to pick up everything in the fourth card and slide it into the smallest envelope in the set of envelopes you were given in your kit. That way all the parts and pieces you need to finish that card are right there, all organized, and we'll just make that one card together, and you can either do the rest later or pause me and do them now, however you want to do it. So we have a series of very simple steps here. We're going to take our printed panel, and we can go ahead and add adhesive. I'm using my preferred adhesive here, which is a adhesive transfer gun. Really like this guy. And I also have my grid ruler handy because I like to make sure that my pieces as they're placed on the card are centered. I believe the margin is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm placing my ruler 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom edge of the card base, which puts me on the first solid line of my ruler. And then I'm making sure that I am 1/4 of an inch from each edge. So you see how nice and level my card base is at this point. And then I can also safely nest the sentiment here with the dark brown panel. And because the margin here is only 1/8 of an inch, it's a little easier to eyeball it if you wanted to. Then I will use my ruler once again, and this is going to be placed a 5/8 inch margin from the outside edge of the card, 3/8 from the print. So however you want to look at it, or if you don't feel comfortable with either of those things, just eyeball. But it's kind of nice when you really can be sure that you're placing everything centered. I do like that look if I'm trying. If I could do angles too. You can definitely angle both of these panels. Probably look really, really sweet as well. Okay, then we have 2 strips. We're just going to nest these together. So I'll add a little adhesive to this strip and place it on the center here. And I am just eyeballing this one. And I'll add some adhesive to this. Again, these pieces too could have been eliminated, but I saved them from the scrap pile. Now, if you want to use the ruler, you can go about 1 inch in from the right edge of the card base if you want to just make sure it's level. I was actually 7/8 of an inch in, but I'll go 1 inch and just make it level. That's already looking really pretty. Now, in this next thing, I used my Earth ink pad and a sponge applicator to ink the edge of my tag a little bit. It just adds a layer of dimension. This is completely and 100% optional, okay? No, it's not required at all, but you see it warms it up a little bit, and I like that. Now we have this word, oh, happy day. I'm going to get kind of precise with you again, because I know that's sort of my thing, sorry. But I'm going to use a ruler and craft knife. This is a thing where you could absolutely use scissors if you don't really care how nice and straight. This is a little small to do with a trimmer, I think. So that's why I get out my ruler and craft knife for projects like this. And I just make sure the ruler is level. And I'm going to cut as tight to the word as I can, because that's the look I want. You don't have to do any of this. So, as you know, you don't have to do any of it. You can do your own thing. I'm going to go with Oh Happy as one section and separate the word day with my knife. You can see I got that all taken care of. Then I'll come in with my little sponge here. You can use a sponge of your choice, of course. And I'm going to just add more of that earth ink to the edges of these words. Look at all those scraps I just made. I better get rid of those. So Oh Happy Day is ready. Here's the next step. I'm going to take a leaf from my package of leafy stickers. Now, I know what you're going to say, like they're not stickers. How do you make them be a sticker? This is a very important trick, okay? Really important. You need tape. Nothing fancy, just like cellophane tape. That's the secret. That's my secret. I'm sharing it with you now. Grab a piece of this tape and put it on the back of the sticker. So the vibrant colors on top and the white sides on the back. So place the sticker on the white side. That's the backing. The sticker itself is really, really a thin material, and you might have to just work it a little bit, but the tape holds the backing while you peel away the sticker. Here's my backing stuck to the tape. Here's my sticker. I'm going to add this to my cute little maple leaf. Okay. And you can use the other side of the tape if you want for another sticker, because I used up all the stickers. Oh, it was so fun. Okay, then I'm going to take my Oh Happy Day and a little bit of bookbinding glue, and you can put it on at an angle. You can put it on straight, whatever you're in the mood for. How cute is that? I love it. Then I'll take my craft knife I have handy here and pop out that center here. And believe it or not, I'm going to add this right to my card. And again, you could do it straight up. You could do it at an angle. So that little hole there, I'll grab the twine that came in your kit. And you can, of course, add the twine to the tag any way you wish. I chose to just make a little bow by making my 2 bunny ears, crossing them, bringing the front one around the back and through the hole. And you'll have a really ugly bow until you sort of pull the loops to the size you want them to be. During this process, you'll find that the twine flattens nicely, which I like, because I'm always looking, and it's a challenge sometimes. Trust me, it's really challenging to find things that are flat enough for a card. And before I add my bow, I think I'm going to go ahead and finish the inside. Open this card, and we have a blue strip here. I'll take scissors and cut a small V into this. I do this a lot because just, I don't know, it's my thing. It's my season for doing this. And I can if I want to. You don't have to do this, but I just think it adds a lot. And again, you're rescuing paper from being wasted. I don't like to waste. And there's my little birthday sentiment. Now here, there's kind of a cute little spot. So I'm gonna take another sticker. That seems kind of big. How about this one? That's cute. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my other half of my cellophane tape and stick it to the back and kind of burnish it a little bit. So then I'm just gonna kind of pick at it a little bit. Sometimes it takes a second. Got it. Woohoo! Okay, I'll add my cute little leaf there. Isn't that adorable? I love it. Okay, now here we are back on the front. All I'm gonna do is pick the side of the bow you don't want to show, and I'll add some bookbinding glue. And that little knobby, the center of the bow, is going to be down where the opening hole is. Isn't that just the cutest, sweetest card ever? I love it. All right, so here we have the other one that says thankful. Any random leaf that works. Look how cute the maple leaf is on this one. I love it. And here we have another thankful. I just have the word off to the side. Love this sweet set of cards. Now you know what to do. You take the other, here's your envelope for the one you finished, plus you have the 3 others ready to go. If you want, just go ahead and pause me and finish those cards right now if you have time. Otherwise, let's move on to set B. Of course, we will begin by emptying pocket B. This is a pretty straightforward set, right? There's nothing crazy about this one either. Yeah, I didn't do a whole lot of mechanical cards this month because I wanted you to be able to save that time to make your box and lid, which I think is a wonderful feature. And remember, you can recycle those instructions for the box and lid and make more boxes and lids. So if you've got a batch of teachers you want to honor this holiday season, this upcoming season, show them how thankful you are. It's a great gift, something that they won't pitch or be annoyed with. You know, it'll be something that they'll really enjoy. So just keep in mind that you can repeat, recycle, take these instructions, grab more papers from your stash, and use them again. Okay, so as before, we will find the bump of our score line and fold that card base in half and burnish the line to make a nice crispy folds. Again, those folds happen much more easily and are less likely to damage the paper because we are folding with the grain, which we prepared for ourselves. These are going to be vertical cards. So let's distribute them, deal them out, do the deal. So that'll be blue and then ivory, dark brown, and light brown. Of those colored panels you have, grab the largest, and we'll start out with our light brown, dark brown, ivory, and blue. Then ivory, light brown, blue, and dark brown. Check your texture sides, make sure they're facing up at this point. That's kind of important. Then we'll go with the printed panel. This strip should be the same height as the smaller panel, and each card gets 1. You have in your kit, in the goodie department, you have these manila tags. So add 1. Then you have a cut apart of a leaf, 4 of those. So we'll add that oak leaf, whatever that leaf is. Don't tease me for not knowing my leaves. And this one, this brownish one, and the orangish one. Then we need a little colored panel. We'll go dark brown here, blue, light brown, and ivory. Notice we're incorporating all of those colors from the collection into each card. So very sorry, and again, so very sorry. Our orange thank you and our brown thank you. The inside of each card will have a strip. We'll use the same color we used for the mat on these strips. So we'll go dark brown, blue, light brown, and ivory. Now we have our inner sentiments, the smallest feet, and the smallest feet. So grateful for the little things. And this cute little guy with the dots, I added it to the 3rd card. That was just a really random thing, but you know, inquiring minds want to know. So that's where I put that. I'll grab my envelope and let's slide the card in. Card 4, 3, and 2. I kind of go in that order too. So that 2 is on top, which is the next card pictured in your instructions. I mean, not like I have this planned out at all, but let's make this beautiful pet sympathy card. Do not nest anything quite yet. I'm going to prepare our smallest panel to start with, okay? We can add the printed panel to the base, and I'm going to use about a 1/4 inch, which is 2 cubes on my ruler, 1/4 inch from the edge, and that just nicely adds our panel. Next, if you want, you can grab your earth ink and make quick work of edging the manila tag and edging the leaf if you would like, since it's an ivory base. That's not necessary, but it warms it up a little bit. And I will adhere that directly to the tag that it was designed to fit with. So lovely. In your kit, you have some taffeta ribbon. I'll grab that and I checked the grain of the ribbon. You know, ribbon has grain too, so I like to make sure if the ribbon's going to be folding in half, that it folds in cooperation with that grain. And I'll take this tag now with the ribbon threaded and adhere it to the upper right area of the panel. Don't wrap the ends quite yet. Now take the So Very Sorry, we'll nest that but not attach it quite yet. So many steps here. I've got this more of this ribbon. I'm going to stretch a length the same height as the card and a little more so I have enough of the ends to wrap around to the back. I love working with taffeta. It's so, I don't know, it's really pliable. The knots aren't very lumpy. I don't know, it's one of my favorites. Okay, so here we have all this going on. The So Very Sorry. I'm gonna take some of my foam adhesive circles. I love these because they're not real high. They are a nice, just small amount of pop. And I'll add some to this nested sentiment here. And I like them because I can make them go far if I just cut them in half, and I still have a little pull tab that makes it super easy to take off the backing, which can be an incredibly annoying experience. Let's see, I'm gonna go into this area here. I still have my ribbons hanging from the end, so I will take this now and nest it onto the panel. Ooh, I'm definitely going to use, it's 1/4 of an inch, so that's 2 cubes on my ruler. And nest. Okay, now the reason I waited to bring that around to the back is because I wanted to see more of the ribbon. Got some tape ready for that. Ooh, isn't that lovely? Just so simple, easy to put together, but very, very stunning. Now on my version of this card, before I nested this, I ran it through an embossing folder to add a little texture. I just happened to have a paw print embossing folder, so it's very subtle. You can't see much of it, but those are little paw prints on this panel, if you have something like that. Otherwise, it's strong. It's a really solid card here, just as it is without anything else added. Next, I'm going to add my strip. It should be the same length as the card. And line that up nicely. Next will be our inner sentiment toward the top. And I'm going to add this little sticker here. So again, I'll come in with my tape on the plain side, burnish, and then now if it doesn't come off right away, don't give up. You're looking for a really, really, really thin piece. And the effort is so worth it because it looks amazing, okay? I love that. There is your gorgeous Pet Sympathy card. That's the one we made together. You'll make another one. Here, I did not wait. Do you see that? The difference between this one and this one? So I made this one first probably, and I didn't like that. So, you know, gain from my experience. And yeah, here I must have just, yeah, I didn't do that the same way. I want a little more of that showing on the wrap. And here, I ran out of the taffeta, and the blue is gorgeous on this. For my trick here, I just made a small tie in a second piece of ribbon and glued it on with a glue line. I have those little lines of glue are really nice by Glue Dots. Makes them, they're amazing. Okay, so here, oh, I also put stickers on the lower corner of the envelopes. And I did that after I used all the stickers on the cards. All the leftovers went onto the envelopes. They were so pretty. There you have set B cards. Enjoy this smooth sailing assembly, and let's move on to set C. We'll take everything out of the pocket. Again, this is another super easy set. That's kind of, again, by design, because I wanted you to have the time and energy to make the box. Get your pieces sorted out here. Lots of squares, rectangles, and strips. I like that every piece has a purpose. Now find your raised line. Now this time you're going to find right away, don't be like, oh no, this is wrong. It's not wrong. We're gonna have a short flap on the front of our card. So just make sure your edges are lined up before you make your final crease, meaning this edge and this edge. Normally I'm looking at the corners, making sure those are lined up. Now it's just the edge, burying the bump of your score line. Take our blue card base, then our light brown, ivory, and orange. And we have all of our panels sorted. We have lots of beautiful panels here. Let's put a light brown panel with this one, orange here, blue here, and ivory. And the print is always so easy to distribute. Just grab 1, 1, 1, 1. Then you have a, let's see, a wider strip. Let's do that one next. So let's go dark brown on this one, ivory here, light brown and blue. So we'll go dark brown square on all 4. And then May Love Be, May Love Be. Let's switch these, darker and lighter. And then I think we are going to need a lot of candles for this one on both of those. Okay, now Inner Sentiments. This is a sympathy card, wishing you peace to bring comfort. Both of those. May your whole day shine with birthday loveliness. Let's do this narrow strip too. Those will go on the outside. I forgot about that. So it'll be orange, blue. This guy with the dots, tan, and I didn't use the ivory. Just set it aside. You should still have 4 envelopes left. So I'm going to take my largest envelope and slide card 4. And again, now you know why I go in this order, card 3, because that will match the order in your instructions. So everything visually should make sense. And let's make this one together. So let's start by nesting this narrow border strip. This time I'm going to use my bookbinding glue just because I'm in the mood. And I will attach this just 1/8 of an inch from the edge of this wider strip. Then I'm going to nest this onto the printed panel 1/4 of an inch from the left edge. Lots of anchoring and layering. Again, this piece was not originally there. I added it because I could. Then, how about some of that gorgeous poly ribbon? We'll trim a length a little longer than the panel itself and wrap it around. And I'm going to center this over the strip. I didn't do this on all of the cards though, just on this one. So again, I was following my creative muse, and you can follow your own creative muse, okay? Then all of this can be nested onto the panel. Okay, that's 1/8 of an inch. It can be eyeballed. Here we have our lovely sentiment here. And I think for attaching, I'm going to go with my foam. So I'll add that. 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe one in the middle. I guess I should say 1/2 of one. So I'm only using 2.5 rounds, but I'm getting adequate coverage. Now I'll add this. What I'm looking at here is margin at the top and right to match, and so that this left edge is kind of over the ribbon. Because I knew that the this piece and this piece are the same color. It was just the way the whole diagrams worked out. So I wanted to create some additional contrast there for that, and I think it turned out really nice. Okay, now this is the fun thing. Oh, there was a sticker on there too. I don't really think I need to show you this again, but I will, because I have fun using these stickers. Put the tape on the white side, burnish it a little, and then pick the piece off the top. I'll add a sticker right there. Looks great. This is one of my favorite features of the way this card is designed. Jacqueline did an amazing job with the art. So I'm going to place my ruler. This is the short flap here, back of the card here. It's a 7-inch card, so I'm at center. Here's my 0 center of my ruler. There's 3.5, 3.5, same measurement all the way around, right? Now when I add this, I want it to be at 3 1/4, 3 1/4. That way I have an equal margin all around, and that's important, okay? So I will add my adhesive and rest the edge against the ruler, drop it down. Okay. Now this, when it's centered, will be framed by the piece that's there. I mean, seriously. Your margin on this one, you're at 3 1/2, 3 1/2. It's going to be 1/2 inch from the edge, so you'll be at 3 and 3, and 1/2 inch, which is the second solid line in the ruler. To know where to add adhesive is such an easy thing. You have to be aware of it. So what I'm going to do is flip this over, and as long as my adhesive doesn't go past the seam of the flap of the card, I'm good to go. So there you go. Oops. That happens. You just got to grab the... There we go. So I'll get my ruler back in place at 3 1/2 from each end and 1/2 inch from the edge, and line it up at 3. Look at how nicely that's framed up. It's just perfect. The card looks great on display. Really nice. The remaining cards in this set, just a few variables, nothing major. On the one that has the wide ivory strip, I added a little ink to it to give it some contrast, and I added a double looped bow with the twine that's in your kit. Here, I did the sticker on this along with the dotted strip, and the twine is going this way. So again, a slight variable. Here, the sticker's here. I've got the light brown strip and the double looped twine as well. So again, just different interpretations, different ways to do these cards. I'm sure you will follow your own way as well. And then take the rest of those stickers when you're in the mood, remove the backing and add them to the outside of the envelope. It'll be so beautiful. Or put them on the lip too. You can do that as well. I think I did that on these. Oh, I just love them. Those stickers are the bomb. Now we have one more thing to do, and that's to make our gift box. I almost forgot. Let's grab our stuff out of pocket D, and this is nice and easy. You're going to be amazed at how this comes together. So these are some decorative elements for the lid of the box. We'll set that aside. I'll start with this orange piece, and I'm going to turn my papers over so that I'm looking at the bumps of the score lines. It's always a little easier to see what you're doing, and I'm holding the paper so it's vertical, so the long way, right? Like portrait. Now here is the far right score line and the second to last score line from the right edge. I'm going to take it out by putting a small V into this paper, cutting toward where that second score line from the bottom intersects. So it's like taking out a dart right there. Okay, then this line has got to go. All of these two squares and the other second intersecting score line needs to go away. So I'm going to cut up towards that intersection, and I'm going to come in from the edge to take out the entire corner and the score line. So it kind of leaves like this obtuse angle here. Look at that, using these fancy words like obtuse. That's the only thing I remember from geometry. So that goes away. I'm going to mirror that over on this side. So the second score line from the left, take it out by cutting a dart and then stopping when you reach the second intersecting line. Notice I have not rotated my paper at all. I just went over from the right side to the left side. I'm going to cut at an angle toward the intersection and come in from the side, remove the whole ball of wax. There's my obtuse shape. And now I have these two tabs. This next step is really important, and I've taught this a lot in live workshops, and the number one mistake people make is that they only turn it one turn, okay? They rotate like this so that these tabs are on the side. Don't do that. Go all the way around so that the tabs are pointing away from you. If you don't do it this way, you'll have what I would call the windmill type. You have a tab pointing in each direction. I've seen it like dozens of times, and no matter how much I try to explain, sometimes you just have to learn it by doing it wrong once, and then you always get it. And we repeat the exact same steps. Put the dart in, move the side. Oh, I didn't start in the same order. I apologize. I'll remove this other dart here. Take that out. I've got a tab. Here, I'll take out my dart. the second score from the edge. And then I'm going to take out this score line and the whole corner. Now I have 2 tabs pointing down, 2 pointing up, and let's just, while we have it, let's just do the same thing on this brown sheet. And that doesn't take long once you sort of get the hang about what's happening. Remember, it's positioned vertically at all times. And I have the raised score line facing me because to me, it makes it just a little easier to see. 2 dots or 2 tabs pointing. Now they're pointing away. Add my dart. Take out the corner. So imagine you're making this for your kids' 6 teachers, you know, at school. Or maybe you have a bunch of Christmas parties you're going to this season, or Thanksgiving. Maybe you're going to go to your in-laws for Thanksgiving and you show up with this for your hostess. Wonderful, right? I'm going to get rid of all of these little darts and corners. Next, I'll just stick with this. I'm going to fold. It's vertical, right? I'm going to fold on this line here and on the neighbor. And you can already see how this is going to end up forming a wall of your box. Then that little tab on the second line only needs to be folded. So I've rotated, and now I'm just going to fold on that short wall. That little tab gets folded. So I'm basically folding on every single score line except the first score on each tab. Okay, let's go back to vertical. That's home base. Okay, now I'm going to grab my adhesive, and you could use liquid adhesive here too. I don't recommend like an Easy Runner type thing or a Tombow. Sometimes those, it might not be strong enough for the application here. I'm running the adhesive all along this long wall from end to end. I'm going to turn it 180 degrees and do the same thing. So that's where the glue goes, outside wall. Then just fold this onto the neighboring scored section. And that makes a nice double thickness. All right, this is the next magical step. I'm going to bring up those side walls and see my tabs now. I'm going to turn them in at 90 degrees like this. So turn them in. And what'll happen is this now flap goes up and around those tabs, but it'll have adhesive on it, so it's going to stay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll put adhesive on that outside short flap, and I'm going to turn it and do the same on the other end so I can just get this all done. Okay, so turn it up and make sure these are sitting at 90 degrees, those little tabs. Bring that flap up and around and attach it. That's wall number 3, and repeat for the last side. That's wall number 4. Gorgeous box. Now remember, that's the lid. I panic almost every single time. I'm like, this doesn't fit, it's all wrong. So even though it's shorter, it's the lid, okay? You did it right. At least I think you did. I mean, I'm not there to personally verify, but I think you did it right. So don't panic if this doesn't fit at first. I mean, I seriously panicked myself. I'm like, what did I do wrong? But I didn't do anything. I just thought one was the lid and it was the base. Now, same deal, same exact steps. So adhesive goes on the outer flaps of the long wall. So in other words, again, it's vertical. Fold the flaps onto themselves. Now rotate. I'm going to put glue on the outside of the short flap. Bring up my side walls and tuck in those tabs so they're at 90 degrees. Go up and around. Can you tell I've made just a small handful of boxes up and around? Okay. So this is the lid. Oh, and it fits. Also, the fact that this is shorter allows me to get, for my thumbs to get there. You could even add a little thumb hole punch if you really wanted to get creative. Okay, isn't that cool? Now, all that's left to do, so great, grab some adhesive. I'm going to eyeball the placement of this along the left edge of my lid, so that I have equal margin. You could round corners if you wanted to. Then I'll add my printed panel here. I'll add Stay Golden. And you know what, before I stick this down, I'm going to just ink these edges a little for that warmth. I could have done the same with the print I added to the box too. This is the earth ink that we carry at Club Scrap, otherwise just grab what you have on hand. I can add some ribbon. I made a little navy bow on mine, and you could add some of the stickers that came in your kit. You could add a little leaf if you wanted to. I'm just being creative here. That's kind of sweet. I'll use my BBG, my book binding glue. Oh goodness, I need to reload. Maybe for this one I'll add a little twine. Let's see how that goes over. There's so many things you can do, and you should have plenty of the blue left to make the bow if you want it blue. If you want to make another one of these guys out of the sweet little twine, you can. I love my bookbinding glue for attaching stuff like this because A, there's no chance of it coming off, and B, you know, it dries clear. That's adorable. Okay, that was a lot, I know, but those cards are really basic and very simple, so they shouldn't take you too long if you are handy and speedy with your adhesive. I see some people like to take a lot of time applying their adhesive, and depending on what you use, if you have a good quality adhesive, you don't have to use 14 yards of it on every card. You just get one dab in each corner, and that should be adequate to hold everything in place for a reasonable amount of handling. Even for this, I don't use a lot, and it's just plenty to keep everything in place while it's being handled. So handle it. Oh man, it's been a long workshop, and it's just me here in my studio, so I'm just imagining you all out there making those cards along with me. I hope you had fun, and if you did, please leave me a comment. I'm always encouraged to hear from you. If you're not already subscribed to our channel, help us reach 12,000 subscribers. Come on, I think we can do better. Get me, share, and get other people to subscribe to Club Scrap's channel. If they are paper crafters and want to learn how to do things, tell them about us. We really appreciate it. So again, thanks for joining me for the Abundance Card Kit Workshop. Hope you had a good time, and I'll see you next month.